The Navajo Nation police found Jake Morrison's truck 40 miles into the desert. Windows shattered from the inside, steering wheel twisted like a pretzel, and claw marks that went straight through the metal doors. But Jake was nowhere to be found. Only his camera, still recording. Its lens cracked but memory card intact. Sarah Chen, documentary filmmaker from Los Angeles, arrived 3 weeks later with her crew. Marcus, her cameraman, and David, her sound engineer. They'd come to investigate the mysterious disappearances plaguing the reservation, despite the locals' warnings to leave it alone. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Thomas Yazzie, their Navajo guide, told them at the trading post. His weathered face carried scars that looked too deliberate to be accidental. "There are things in the desert that wear faces like masks. Speaking of them calls them closer." Sarah dismissed it as superstition, but she noticed how even saying the word Skinwalker made the locals turn away. How mothers pulled their children inside, how dogs began to whine and hide. They set up camp near Window Rock, where 3 hikers had vanished the previous month. As the sun set, painting the red rocks the color of dried blood, Thomas built their fire higher than necessary. "Fire keeps them curious but cautious," he explained, his eyes never stopping their scan of the darkness beyond. That first night, Sarah heard it, a perfect imitation of her mother's voice calling from the desert, begging for help. Her mother, who had died 5 years ago. Marcus grabbed her arm as she stood to investigate. "That's not your mother," he whispered, sweat beading on his dark skin despite the cold. The voice continued for hours, cycling through loved ones they'd lost, each plea more desperate than the last. David recorded everything, his hands shaking as the sound equipment picked up frequencies that shouldn't exist. Voices layered upon voices, human and animal merged into something obscene. On the second night, they found tracks around their camp, human footprints that morphed mid-stride into coyote paws, then into something with too many toes, then back to human, but walking backward. Thomas went pale when he saw them. "They're testing us," he said, "learning our shapes." Sarah set up motion cameras in a perimeter, infrared sensors that could detect heat signatures. At 3 a.m., the alarms triggered. The footage showed their own team walking through the desert, except they were all in their tents. The doppelgangers moved wrong, joints bending in impossible directions, heads turning too far, smiles stretching beyond human limits. "We need to leave," David begged, but Sarah insisted on one more night. She needed proof, needed to document what was happening. That decision would haunt the survivors forever. The attack came at sunset on the 3rd day. Marcus saw it first, a deer walking on its hind legs, approaching their camp with human eyes that held too much intelligence. It spoke in Jake Morrison's voice. "Help me, please, I'm so cold." Then its skin began to shift, ripple, like something underneath was trying different shapes. Thomas threw white ash from a pouch, creating a protective circle. "Don't look at their eyes. Don't answer when they call your name. And whatever you do, don't let them know your real name." But it was too late. They knew. The thing that had been a deer dropped to all fours, its body elongating, fur sprouting and retracting in waves. When it stood again, it wore Marcus's face, but wrong. The features were perfect yet arranged incorrectly, like a reflection in disturbed water. "Sarah," it said in Marcus's voice, but underneath were layers of other voices, other victims. "I need you to trust me. The real Marcus is the imposter." The real Marcus screamed, and that's when the others appeared. They came from the rocks, from beneath the sand, wearing the faces of everyone the team had ever loved and lost. Sarah's dead mother, David's brother who died in Afghanistan, Thomas's grandmother, all wrong, all hungry, all speaking in unison. "Let us in. We're so cold. We just want to go home." Thomas began chanting in Navajo, throwing more ash, but there were too many. One wearing a child's face but moving like a spider scuttled past the barrier. It touched David, and he began to change. His screams turned to howls, then to something between human and animal, then to silence as his body became fluid, reshaping itself into something that had never been human at all. Sarah ran, Marcus beside her, Thomas covering their retreat with burning sage that made the air shimmer. Behind them, David, or what David had become, gave chase, sometimes on 2 legs, sometimes on 4, sometimes on configurations that shouldn't exist. They reached Thomas's truck, but the engine wouldn't start. In the mirrors, Sarah saw them surrounding the vehicle, dozens of shapes, all wearing familiar faces, all wrong. Her mother's face on a coyote's body, Marcus's face on something with too many limbs, David's face, split open like a flower, revealing rows of teeth. They feed on fear and flesh, Thomas said, loading a shotgun with shells filled with white ash and turquoise. But mostly, they feed on identity. They take who you are and make it theirs. The windshield cracked as something with Sarah's own face pressed against it, smiling with too many teeth. "Let me in," it whispered. "I'm you. You're out there. I'm in here. We should switch back." Thomas fired through the glass, and the thing scattered like smoke, reforming moments later. But the engine finally turned over. They drove through the horde, shapes throwing themselves at the truck, leaving dents that looked like human faces pressed into metal. They made it 5 miles before the truck died. In the sudden silence, they heard it, hundreds of voices, all speaking their names, getting closer. But worse was what Thomas said, "Look at your hands." Sarah looked down. Her fingers were wrong, too long, joints bending backward. She looked at Marcus, saw his face shifting, features sliding like wet paint. Thomas pulled out a mirror, showed her the truth. They weren't themselves anymore. Somewhere in the chaos, they'd been replaced. "When?" Sarah asked, but her voice came out layered, multiple tones. "When did we?" "The moment you decided to stay," Thomas said, and his face split open, revealing the truth beneath. "The moment you spoke our name, we've been wearing your skin since the second night. You've been dead for days." The real Sarah's last memory flooded back, waking to find her own face, looking down at her, smiling as it peeled her skin away like removing a coat. The agony of being turned inside out, of watching something else step into her life, her identity, her very existence. She looked at what she thought was Marcus, saw the same realization in his eyes. They weren't the survivors. They were the shells, the discarded remnants animated by something ancient and hungry, playing out the final moments of lives already stolen. In the distance, the documentary cruise van drove toward Los Angeles. Inside, perfect copies of Sarah, Marcus, and David sat in silence, occasionally practicing human expressions in the mirrors, adjusting their borrowed faces. They had footage to share, a story to tell, and a city full of new identities to harvest. Back in the desert, the husks that thought they were Sarah and Marcus collapsed into dust and bone, finally allowed to die. Thomas Yazzie, or the thing that wore his shape, collected their remains, adding them to the countless others hidden beneath the sand. The next morning, a new group of investigators arrived. Drawn by the mystery, Thomas met them at the trading post, his weathered face carrying those deliberate scars, warning them about things that wear faces like masks. Some listened and left. Others stayed, insisting on one more night of investigation. In the desert, patient as stone and hungry as the void, the Skinwalkers waited. They had new faces to try, new voices to steal, new identities to consume. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Sarah Chen's documentary about mysterious disappearances in the Navajo Nation premiered to critical acclaim. Though viewers noted something unsettling about the filmmaker's eyes, how they never quite looked human, even when they smiled. The cycle continued, as it always had, as it always would. Because the truth about skinwalkers isn't that they steal your face. It's that once they do, you become one too, forever hunting for the identity you lost. Wearing faces like masks, calling names in the darkness, hoping someone will answer and make you whole again. But wholeness never comes. Only hunger, only the endless need to be someone, anyone, other than the nothing you